What's going on, guys? Alex with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Brian Brown Yeager M. This is the version 2 of the Yeager M, and this was one of the two bougie knives that were lent in by my good buddy Kevin over at Left EDC. The other being the Maverick S, designed by Matthew Christensen, I believe his name is. I know it's Christensen, I think it's Matthew. So that'll be probably the video you see after this review, but I've had these for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and I'm finally ready to give you guys my thoughts on them, and hopefully I can portray that here in this video. But, the first thing that catches your eye is obviously this fat carbon, or this camo carbon that is inlaid in this knife. It's definitely eye-catching, and it kind of, presents a statement. It's bold, it's... I don't want to say it again, but it catches your eye. It really does. It was kind of the first thing that pops out at you, or like if you set this with, a row of other knives, I feel like this would be the one that kind of hones you in first, just because you don't see too many knives in that color. So it is the Brittany Blue non-flipper. I think Kevin was joking back when he was making videos about this, is it Tiffany Blue or Brittany Blue or stuff like that. But I think Kevin got this. Actually, I'm not going to say when he got this because, so these knives came out a couple months ago. I don't know if he did a pre-order. I think he did a pre-order, but then, Knife Joy had an exclusive, and, I don't know who else had exclusives, but a lot of retailers were getting them and doing a lot of drops. So the market was kind of flooded with Yeager M's for about a month or so. And I know Kevin had, I want to say 4 or 5 on the channel, whether those were his or, I think he had like 2 or 3 of his own, and then he ordered a few more, and then he proxied for a few guys. So he had a lot of Yeagers in and on, in and around and on his channel and whatnot. And the 2 that he ended up keeping was this Brittany Blue one, and he also has a golf putter milled one from, I don't know if that's from Fanatic Edge, where he got that one from. But those are the 2 he has now. But on the website, brianbrownknives.com, they had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they had 6 different versions. They had a full tie. They had a navy blue, Brittany blue, copper camo, sunset orange, and blackout. And those are all in the camo carbon. And then you could either get them as a flipper or a non-flipper. So technically 12 different variations of this knife. And like I said, that's not including exclusives from different retailers, which I know I saw, the specific one that I can think of has a, canvas micarta inlay with a black blade. I don't know where they got, or, who sold that one. But I specifically remember seeing that one a lot. So yeah, so what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of different variations on the knife market of these, and like I said, it was kind of flooded at first, and now it's kind of died down. But for, a month and a half after these dropped and all the retailers came out with them, it was pretty saturated. Like, people were getting them and then trading them and selling them and so on and so forth. And, this knife has had my eye for quite a while. And I think the very first time I saw the Yeager, and I think this was the version 1, was back on Jake over at Bearded Gears channel. He got one in. And I remember how, that was me kind of early on into the collecting stage, and I thought $300 knives or $350 knives were like way ahead of where I could spend. Here I am now, a year and a half later, and that's like not as bad anymore. That's $350 is about my, limit of spending without going like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? But one day I'll get to that, higher price range, but, nonetheless, I remember seeing him with it, and I thought, that's a really cool knife. And I've always kind of had my eye on Brian Brown, and his, he came out with the Raptor earlier this year, which is really, really cool. And then this finally dropped. So, of course, it's a very, not just with the camo carbon, but with this Warncliffe style blade, with the hollow grind. It just catches your eye. It's a very, I don't want to say sinister looking knife, but it's definitely a wicked looking knife. It comes down to a pronounced point here with a straight edge. It's an M390, has a hole. Of course, this is the non-flipper. It's a frame lock. You have a milled titanium pocket clip right there. In the cutout of the lock bar, you have Brian Brown's logo. You have another little swatch of Brittany Blue over here. And then Kevin, I think, added this afterwards. I believe this is a Damascus or a Mokutai clip. Or, sorry, not a clip, a backspacer. To me, it's kind of messing with me a little bit because, you know, you have the different types of blue here on both sides, and then you have this up here. But it's definitely cool looking because you can kind of see the swirls go down through it, if you guys can see that well enough. It's on bearings. I'm sure Kevin puts gifts in this. He puts gifts in everything. There is a lot of internal milling going on the show scale side. Is there anything else that I'm missing for materials? These are made by Riot, which is a very, you know, you guys know and know everything about Riot. They're very well known. Pretty much the kind of the cream of the crop when it comes to China and Chinese manufacturing knives. They're kind of the standard that everyone is trying to chase. I think the gap between Riot and, you know, QSP and Kubi and Beztech, it used to be, you know, pretty wide, but within, you know, the last year and a half, I think it's gotten, you know, a lot smaller. Riot's definitely, I would say, you know, top dog, but other places are getting really close to them. But nonetheless, Riot is a very well, you know, oiled machine. They make some great knives, and this thing, fit and finish wise, is awesome. So I think that's it for materials. I don't believe I'm missing anything. I pointed out the hollow grind, which is really nice and thin, comes down to a very sharp edge, nice straight edge right there for the Wharncliffe blade. Of course, this is I believe this is a belt satin. You can see the grind lines right there, but I think that's all for materials. So yeah, we're going to jump into action next. And with this being the non-flipper, you don't have anything up here to worry about. The only way to open this knife is, of course, I mean, you can pinch grip it if you wanted to do that, but it's an opening hole, so works well for the thumb flick. The middle finger flick flies out of there, and you guys can probably hear it has a nice ting to it. This is definitely one of the more vocal knives that I've had in for a while. Sounds really nice. It kind of hits, and then it like echoes a little bit with a ting. That was really good. One thing I've noted is versus the between the thumb flick and the middle finger flick, the thumb flick tends to be a little bit duller because you can still hear it, but then when the middle finger flick flies out, I don't know if it's because I don't have as many fingers on the knife, if it kind of like lets it reverberate and echo a little bit more. But that's just something that I've kind of you know, picked up on. You can middle finger. You can slow roll this knife out. It works pretty well, you know, as long as you're not putting a ton of pressure here on the lock bar. Comes right out. But, you know, the two shining stars of the opening methods are the thumb flick and the middle finger flick. And it has a pretty stiff detent. You guys can hear it lock back into place. So the detent's very good. I know Kevin loves a stiff detent, so I can see why on this knife it works very well. Now for the closing action, it's very smooth. Like I said, it's probably on skiffs that Kevin put in there. No blade play, no lock rock or anything. It's tuned up, you know, very well. Drops to your nail. It's not really a shake shut because of that detent being so stiff. I think that's why that's affected like that. But it's very smooth. So as long as you have the lock bar pushed out of the way and it drops to your nail, all you got to really do is just kind of do one, you know, solid shake and it'll drop, versus dropping and then like trying to get those small shakes. It'll do it, but it's not going to be as quick as some other knives, and it's not going to be as basically droppy as other knives. So like there, I mean, if I pull my nail out of the way earlier, it'll stay. There it stayed. Well, there, I'm just past the detent ramp. You can see it's very smooth, but just not going to be a guillotine drop shot guy, which is okay. Some knives I enjoy knives like this just because, you know, a controlled drop is almost a little bit more fun in different ways than just having a free swinging absolute, you know, guillotine of a knife. But the action is what I expected it to be. You know, it's very well done. Detent is snappy. Middle finger flick and thumb flick are phenomenal. Closing action, very smooth. You know, it's basically what I expected from watching so many videos from Kevin doing this. are about this knife, and other people talking about this knife, and seeing on Instagram and knowing it was, excuse me, a re-op made knife, and how good their tolerances are and everything like that. It's what I expected it to be, and that's a good thing. So very well done. No complaints from me at all. Definitely a stiff detent, maybe a tad bit stiffer than what I would like. But, you know, I'm not the detent diva like Mr. Kevin is, so it probably suits him very, very well. But action is 2 thumbs up from me. So next up is Ergos. And this knife is super duper comfortable. So it's kind of a chunkier knife. Like, it's definitely not the thinnest thing in the world. I felt, you know, thicker and heavier and heftier and chunkier and stuff like that knives, but it definitely has a little bit of girth to it. But there's no jimping at all on this knife, which is nice. There's no jimping up here, no jimping down here. And one thing I also want to note is the lock bar access, in my opinion, is pretty good. You know, you don't have a huge cutout right there, but once you get used to the knife, all you gotta do is just drop your corner or the corner of your nail into it, and it's gonna free drop, you know, to your nail. Or when you pull your nail out of there, it'll stop. But yeah, Ergos are awesome. You know, there's a choil up here that's kind of 50-50. Well, it's probably 70-30, maybe 65-35 between the blade and the handle, but it's very comfortable. And then you have an indent right here for, I believe, when you're choked up, 2 of your fingers can fit in there. And then it kind of has a little bit of swell right here too, flat back here, and then you just have a flat top of the scale. The backspacer does stick out a little bit there, which is intriguing. So choked back in this knife, I can get a 4-finger grip on here. My pinky is kind of just hanging on back there. You know, it's not the most comfortable. So it's comfortable this way, but this way is much more comfortable because you can get choked up. Like I said, these 2 fingers, ring and middle finger, fall right here. My pinky locks in there, and then my pointer finger wraps around the choil. And to me, this is the most comfortable way to hold this knife. It feels very secure in the hand. You can be doing push cuts this way. You know, if you're going to be doing something where you have to be worrying about what you're cutting or something you're cutting around, this is going to be a very good grip for you. You know, you can get a lot of leverage up here. The spine of the knife is, you know, flat, and it's a kind of, it's a decent size blade stock thickness. So you have plenty of area for your thumb to land. It's very comfortable because it is a little bit wider and has a little bit more of a landing platform than other knives. So anywhere you land on this top up here is going to be comfortable, whether you're out here, whether you're back here. You know, any grip is going to be good. So, you know, reverse hammer grip. You know, I use pinch grips a lot, so a pinch grip is going to be comfortable. You can kind of just land right here on the 2 pivots, and it's going to be good to go. You can swing it around and use it as a fighting knife if you have to use that in a 7-Eleven gas station fight with Kevin. You know, this has a pretty, comes down to a decently thin tip, but I wouldn't doubt that this thing is pretty good at piercing just because it, you know, such a menacing looking blade. But back to Ergos. Ergos are good, you know, comfortable. Sure, it's a little bit thick, a little bit chunky, but to me, it fills my hand very, very well. You know, if you had smaller hands, it might feel a little bit chunkier. But I wear, you know, about a size large glove, and it fits my hands very well. So take that with a grain of salt, and just, you know, keep that in mind when you're thinking about purchasing one for yourself or, you know, whatever you might be thinking about with this knife. So next up is Carry. And this knife is definitely not the most lightweight knife I've ever handled before. But I did mention earlier, there is lots of internal milling on the show scale side. So you do have lots of milling. No, there is what, 2 pockets on, no, actually there's, okay, I couldn't see from the angle I was looking at earlier, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets cut out on the lock bar side. They're all up top here. And then of course you have this relief cut right there. But it's still, you know, a decent weight. I'm on the website here and I might see if I can find it. Okay, so it says weight is 4.6 to 4.8 ounces, probably depending on, you know, if you have one of the camo carbon ones or if you have the full tie one. So, you know, we'll say this is 4.6 ounces, and it definitely feels heavy in the hand. Not heavy, but you can feel that it has some heft to it. It doesn't feel overly heavy, but you know, I definitely think that there could be a little bit. Well, I say that now, but I don't know if you just make the titanium a little bit thinner, if that would help and shave off a few ounces. but I just feel like it could be a little bit lighter in the pocket, or in the hand. And in the pocket, it's not too bad. You can't tell as much as if you're holding it, but you have this milled titanium pot clip. It sticks out about that much up out of your pocket. I wish it was a little bit deeper, but I know Brian Brown likes these type of clips, and they do, accent the knife pretty well. I'm just a fan of having a little bit deeper in my pocket. Maybe you could have made this a single screw clip, and then you would get a little bit deeper, but then you would have less rigidity of it and whatnot. So I understand why he uses it, and again, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think it looks good. I forgot to mention in the ergo department, the pot clip, you can't really feel it all just because it's so flat to the knife, so that's another plus. But I've carried this only in my front right pocket of my jeans, and it carries pretty well. Drops right in. There's no flipper tabs or anything up here. You do have this kind of, it's almost like crowned at the top. I don't know if you guys can pick that up on the camera or not, but the backspacer, you might kind of catch your hand on that, but it's just really going to bounce away, and you're not going to have much of an issue there. So, all in all, is it the best carry knife I've ever handled before? No. Is it the worst? Not by a long shot. It's kind of right in that middle grade. I'm not going to say I love it, how it carries and stuff like that, but it's, it doesn't bother me, but it was worth noting, the few things that I kind of picked up on. So, carry is mediocre in my opinion. But that leads me to my final category of price point and would I recommend this knife. So on Brian Brown's website, the Brittany Blue version non-flipper goes for $399, or it went for. You can no longer buy these from any place. If you're going to be looking to get one, you have to get it on the secondary. See if all the other ones are $399 as well. So the two titanium ones are $355, so you're going to be saving about $45-50 if you want just a full titanium one, which the full tie ones look good, but all the camo carbon ones are $399. So $400, I don't know. I feel like, in my opinion, that might be, I don't know, I want to say a little bit high, but in today's knife world, that's kind of what you're paying for premium builds like this. And I have to remember, you're getting, a really big slab of camo carbon, and then a slab over here, or a little, not a slab, but a little strip over here. So that's going to make the price go up. They're made by Riot. Riot knives are automatically a little bit more expensive just because that's how it rolls. You're getting a very nice, big, thick, not thick, actually thin with the hollow grind, but a big piece of M390 steel. I believe this is a 3.5 inch blade. So that's to me, a pretty decent size. I tend to not go above 3.5 inches very often for my blade sizes, but it's very well made. Again, it's Riot. You have bearings. I can't really contest to the stock bearings because Kevin put skips in here, but the action is phenomenal. Fit and finish is really good, and I wouldn't expect anything less than a Riot made knife, or from a Riot made knife. The action's what I expected. Like I said earlier, it fires out of there, has a very stiff detent, which some of you may like, some of you may not. Just depends on how you are. So I can recommend it. I think it's for being the first knife I've handled from Brian Brown, I think it's a really cool knife. Am I gonna run out and get one? No. I definitely was intrigued by them when they came out, and then I saw people selling them for a little bit less than what they bought them for retail, just to get rid of them. And I was kind of tempted to pick one up just because I really like Wharncliffe's. And again, I've been so intrigued by this knife for quite a while, but I held off. And now that I've gotten to handle it and gotten to check it out, it's definitely not going to be one that I'm going to run out to buy. But I'm super glad I got to check it out for that reason, just because I wanted to know. And that's a huge perk of, being a reviewer and having friends in the community, is you can check out stuff without having to buy it, which is phenomenal. So yes, I can recommend it. I think $399 is definitely it. Like I said, my heart wants to say a little bit overpriced, but that's just the fact of what you're paying for nowadays. People are going to gripe that it's made in China and stuff like that. Yeah, I know, but Riot is just a really well-known company. They make some awesome products, and I don't have any complaints with them. I'm sure they're not in some sweatshop, making slaves make knives, like a lot of people think about when it comes to Chinese knives and Chinese manufacturers. They kind of have this, preconception of, Chinese knives are made in, awful work conditions and stuff like that. But that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. I don't want to bring that up and, get anybody riled up by that. But yeah, I think it's a good knife. I think $3.99 is an okay price for it. I think it's a great, if you really like the design and you're a Brian Brown fan, go buy it, go find one on the secondary, or odds are you probably already have one. So, yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about this. So actually I do want to point out with the backspacer, I don't know if you get a stock backspacer or what that is, because obviously this is an aftermarket one by Kevin. So I don't know what comes with it. I can't contest to that. But yeah, that's really, all I have to say, guys. Hope you were able to get a good idea of my thoughts on the knife. Again, I think it's a good knife, just not going to be one that I run out and buy. I'd rather spend $400 on, some other stuff that I've had my eye on before, or I've handled and I know I like. But I do want to thank Kevin for sending me this and the Maverick to check out. These were two that were kind of on my list for a while, and I really do appreciate getting to check them out. So thank you, Kevin. I always appreciate you, buddy. You're a good fella, and you always have been a supporter of the channel, and I really do appreciate that. And you guys are all supporters of the channel, so I just want to thank you guys for always tuning back in, always supporting, liking videos, commenting on videos, all my new subscribers. I'm slowly getting to 1,000. We'll get there at some point. I think I'm 824 right now. When I hit 1,000, I have a pretty, decent sized giveaway for you guys that I have in the works. But yeah, so that's going to be all for today, guys. Also, don't forget to use code 814EDC for 10% off of your checkout at Blue Creek Knives. Always linked down below in the description. Helps you, helps me, helps Brian. It's a win-win-win, as I like to say. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.